Hey class, this is CRJS240 Criminology. We are reviewing chapter 6, which is the social structures theory chapter. With this chapter, what you should take away from it is definitely knowledge about tracing the history of sociological criminology, which basically includes the application of concepts, um, sociological concepts to criminology that can be traced to the works of some really pioneering sociologists like L.A.J. Adolphi Quetelet. It's Quetelet. And they use data and statistics in performing research on criminal activity. Then you have David Emil Durkheim, who defined crime as a normal and necessary social event. These perspectives have been extremely influential on modern criminology. The primacy of sociological positivism as the intellectual basis of criminology was secured by research, which begun by the sociology department at the University of Chicago. And it is here that they pioneered research on the social ecology of the city. Regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, the everyday behavior of people was controlled by the media controlled by the social and ecological climate in which they dwelt. According to the Chicago School Views, criminal behavior is not then a function of personal traits or choice, but it's more so linked to the environment, environmental conditions that fail to provide residents with proper human relations and development. Also, I want you to be able to clarify the association between social structure and crime. So according to the social structure theory, the root cause of crime can be traced directly to socioeconomic disadvantages that have become pretty much embedded in our American society. People in the United States live in a stratified society. There is social strata that is created by the unequal distribution of wealth and power and prestige. The crushing lifestyle of lower class areas produce a culture of poverty, and that is passed pretty much on from generation to generation, and is stained by apathy and by cynicism and helplessness and a mistrust of social institutions. Lower class people are driven to desperate measures such as crime and substance abuse to cope with these different economic plights that they face. Aggravating this dynamic is the constant media bombardment, linking material possessions to self-worth. Like, if you don't have anything or you don't possess certain things, you're not successful or you haven't accomplished what you should in our society. There are some prime examples of the social disorganization theory. Crime occurs in disorganized areas, right, where institutions of social control are present, such as family, commercial establishments, schools. They've broken down and they no longer can perform their expected or stated functions. Indicators of social disorganization include things like high unemployment and school dropout rates, deteriorated housing, low income levels, and large numbers of single parent households. Residents in these areas experience conflict and despair. And as a result, it is here where antisocial behavior pretty much flourishes. Chapter 6 talks a lot about Shaw and McKay, and it is them that explained crime and delinquency in the context of the changing urban environment, the ecological development of the city, and it is poverty-ridden transitional neighborhoods that suffered high rates of population turnover and they were basically these neighborhoods were incapable of inducing residents to pretty much remain and defend the neighborhoods against criminal groups. The values that slum youth adopt often conflict with existing middle class norms, which demand more of a strict obedience to following legal code or being compliant with the law. Consequently, there is a value conflict that further separates delinquent youth and his or her peer groups from that of conventional society. And the result is more of a solid embrace of deviant goals and behaviors. Chapter 6 also talks about being able to differentiate between various elements of the ecological theory. And it is here that crime rates and the need for police services are associated with community deterioration, disorder, poverty, alienation, disassociation, and the fear of crime. In larger cities, neighborhoods with high percentage of deserted houses and apartments experience higher crime rates. In disorganized neighborhoods that suffer social and physical incivilities that cause fear, as fear increases, the quality of life deteriorates or decreases. People who live in neighborhoods that experience high levels of crime and civil disorder become suspicious and mistrusting, and they may start to develop that siege mentality. When areas start to decline, residents start to flee to safer and more stable locations, and they just let the neighborhoods just kind of deteriorate as is. Transitional neighborhoods have very high crime rates. And lastly, Chapter 6 talks about the association between collective efficiency and crime. So it is here that cohesive communities develop collective efficiency, mutual trust, a willingness to intervene in the supervision of children, and the maintenance of public order. Not too many people nowadays want to intervene in the supervision of children. If you're out and about and you see a kid acting up, are you willing to address their behavior? Some people are not, because they're in fear of how the parents, because a lot of parents now don't accept criticism to their parental style. I've seen kids act a plumb fool in the store, and because they're not getting something that they want, and the parent just kind of succumbs to their tantrums, and they go on about their business. When I was growing up, everybody in the neighborhood could get you. Then they're going to tell your parents, or they was going to tell my parents, and then my parents is going to get me. And it was just kind of that village thing. Some of the elements of collective efficiency operate on the primary or private level and involve peers and families and relatives. Communities that have collective efficiency attempt to use their local institutions to control crime. One of the things that's going on in today's climate with the tensions between law enforcement and communities of color is that a lot of people are always asking, where are our social institutions? In the Black community, whenever there are issues, we've always went to the church. So where are our church leaders stepping up to address a lot of these issues, to try to deal with the crime, to try to discourage the delinquent behaviors? Where are these community leaders now? Stable neighborhoods are also able to arrange for external sources of social control, such as more police on patrol, that further reduce crime rates, right? Chapter 6, I want you to be able to articulate what it is meant by the concepts of strain and anonymity. That is a condition that occurs because while social and economic goals are common to people, in all economic strata, the ability to obtain these goals is really class dependent. So we all want the same thing, but the ability to be able to obtain those things varies based on class and that class status. Most people in the United States obviously desire wealth. What is that American dream? You want a white picket fence, a dog, a nice house, a good job, live in a nice neighborhood, right? They desire wealth. They desire material possessions. They desire power and prestige and other life comforts, right? Anonymity occurs among members of the lower class who are unable to achieve these symbols of what we consider, or America has put in our minds to say that this is what constitutes success through conventional means. And consequently, they feel anger, they feel frustration, they feel resentment, and this is referred to collectively as a strain, right? When we look at the Merton's theory of anonymity, and we look at the different elements, Merton argues in chapter 6 that in the United States, legitimate means to acquire wealth are stratified across class and status lines, right? Some people who have an inadequate means of attaining success, others have the means that reject societal goals. So to resolve the goals and the means conflict and relieve their sense of strain, some people innovate and solve their problems by stealing, extorting money. Others retreat into drugs and alcohol. Some rebel by joining revolutionary groups. And still others get involved in that more of the ritualistic behavior and even join religious cults. Okay. Another theorist, criminologist, that's discussed in chapter 6 is Agnew, and they talk about the concept of negative affective states. So Agnew suggests that criminality is the direct result of negative affective states, the anger, the frustration, the adverse emotions that emerge in the wake of destructive social relationships. And he finds that the negative affective states are produced by a variety of sources of strain, including the failure to achieve success, application of negative stimuli, and the removal of positive stimuli. Okay. And finally, if we're going to differentiate the differences, different forms of cultural deviance theory, that theory combines both elements of the strain theory and also social disorganization theories. There is a unique lower class culture that has pretty much developed in these disorganized neighborhoods. And these independent subcultures maintain this unique value and belief systems that conflict with the conventional social norms. So criminal behavior, one, is an expression of conformity to lower class subcultural values and traditions, and it's not looked at as a rebellion, not a rebellion from conventional society. Subcultural values are handed down from one generation to the next. So again, when we're looking at the theories of crime causation and why people commit crime, so we started with chapter 4 with the rational choice theory, right? Then in chapter 5 we talked the trait theory, and lastly with chapter 6. We talked about social structure theories. So definitely be prepared for chapter 7, which talks about social process theories, and we start to look at socialization in the society. All right, y'all have a good day.